Okay. Special day. We're going into Matan Torah. Today's shiur will be Lila Nishmas Shlomo ben Yechiel David. Today is a special day. It's a Yom Haledes. We have two special Yom Haledes, and today is dedicated Lekovid Yankel Yankelovich. Leute Yomim v'Shonim Tovos. Shmuel Hanavi. Okay.
In Yerushalayim, they have a lot of people going.
Well, today you got Shmuel Hanavi, yeah?
But you know,
Meantime, the Goyim living right there by the cabin still.
next to Ramot.
Is that near Orson Math?
Okay, let's get started. Is anyone that needs a sheet? Yeah. Someone asked a question this week. The family got a letter from the German government. The father of the family was getting reparations from the Germans in the tune of $1,000 a month, and they said their records show that the person passed away on December 28th. Accidentally, they sent $1,000 on January 1st for the month of January. They'd like the family to return the $1,000.
My mother didn't want to take that.
Yeah.
What?
And there were two attitudes. There were people that gladly took the reparation money from the Germans, and those that refused to take it. There's no right way or wrong way. The Germans had set aside money to give to our survivors for reparation. There were survivors that refused to take a nickel or dime of it. There were survivors that took it. My grandparents, it was an ongoing thing. My Zayda said, never take a nickel. My Baba says she'll take whatever she gets. So, there's no right or wrong way. You can't tell Chas v'Sholom, a survivor, one way is right over the other way. Every person did the way they feel. There's nothing. There's nowhere in the Torah that says that one way is the right or one way is the wrong. Anyway, this is not the shaila today. Was do they have to return the $1,000 to the German government? Okay, so let's read a little bit over here. It's a connection to the parshas that we're just coming from. Ashgocha Protis is connected to the past week's parsha. The Gemara says in Baba Kama, towards the end, Daf Kuf Yud Gimel, Tanya Yisrael v'Tanya Ana Shabola L'Din, Meta Yochel L'Zakeyu, B'Dini Yisrael Zakeyu. A Jew and a Goy, and the Goy is like a crooked Goy, and they come, and you're the judge, and according to the Jewish law, the Jew is Zakai. So try to lean towards the Jew. If I'm more like say the Goy, these are our laws. If the Jew could win according to the secular law, that's your law. If you can't make the Jew win one way or the other way, figure out some way. Rabbi Akiva says you can't. If you could, fear and square time. Look, here it's in the book. Okay. If you could tell him, look, here legally that's the law of the land. The Jew is Zakai. You could do it, but to do a trick, you're not allowed to. It's a bi'achil Hashem. It'll be the opposite of a kiddush Hashem. So the Gemara asks a question. The only objection is kiddush Hashem. Time and kiddush Hashem. I like a kiddush Hashem. But if there was no issue of kiddush Hashem or chil Hashem, you could trick the guy. Vegezel knani mishari. Is it permissible to steal from a guy? Amr Reb Shimon Dover ze Dora Shrebi Akiva Kishaba Mezifrin that Rabbi Akiva Dashin Menayin Legezel Knani Shu also. How do we know it's also to steal from a goy? Talmud Loimer Achere Nimker Geula Tieloi. It's a past week's parsha that when a yid is sold as a slave, that there's always possible to make a cheshbon with the seller. Say he paid $600, so he's supposed to work for 6 years. He worked for 3 years, so you make a cheshbon with the seller. Hi, he worked 3 years, so he still owes you $300. Someone, a Jew, will come and pay the $300 and redeem the slave. So the pasuk says. You can't just take the Jew and walk away. You have to pay for him. You can't steal the slave. So then we'll say that maybe since the owner of the slave owns him, what if the price of the slaves went up and he's going to say, oh, pay me the price, the fair market value of a slave today? Yeah, you have to be medactic to the nickel. You have to see how many days he worked, how many days he paid, and then you pay him the balance. Amr Rabbi Yosef. Let's read the Gemara. Let's read the Gemara. Amr Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yosef said, "Lo kasha." That this brayse is no raya. It's not a kasha to us. Haba knani, haba ger toshev. It depends if it's a knani or a ger toshev. That the ger toshev is a higher level. You have to be careful with him. Ger toshev is someone that accepted Sheva Mitzvah Bnei Noach and he lives in Eretz Yisrael. So with him, you have to be very careful not to steal. But a knani you could steal. A regular guy you could steal. Amalei Abaya, it's not true. But Tavai Gabe Adodik Siv Loy Loch Ela Lager Shnema Lager Veloy Lager Tzedek Ela Lager Toshev Shnema Lager Toshev Mishpachas Ger Zeovet Koichavim Shaimer Oile Eke Zenim Kalev Koichavim. So because the pasuk says if a yid chas v'shalom doesn't keep the laws of Shemitah, which is last week again, the whole last week's parsha is all about the sin of not keeping the Shemitah. So then he gets sold. And if he and worse off, he doesn't get sold to a Jew, he gets sold to a goy, and then worse off, he gets sold as a worker for the base of Avodah Zarah. So we're talking about a goy. We're talking a real goy, and we see that the pasuk says that you have to be very scrupulous and do exact cheshbon and not steal a nickel or a dime from the goy. That there's a difference between gezel and afkos alva osli. Which is a very, very important thing. There's the question that Rishonim talk about it. Not all the Rishonim agree that really Gezel Goy is also. The Alter Rebbe comes down very hard on this issue. The Alter Rebbe holds that the Gezel Goy is also Minat Torah. The Alter Rebbe holds Gezel Goy is also Minat Torah. You're not allowed to steal. There's a beautiful tshuva from the Chacham Tzvi where he says that someone had an argument about Gezel Goy. He said how the goyim are not part of the mitzvahs. So he says, well, the mitzvah is not on the goy to lock his house that the yidden shouldn't steal. The mitzvah is on the yid. The Eibishter says that he doesn't want yidden to have repugnant midos, and stealing is repugnant to the Eibishter. So what's the difference? That it's not the pshat that goy is eine betoyre mitzvahs. It's not to do with the goy. It's to do with me. The Alter Rebbe is very machmir. And mitzvah Shem, there's a lot of shadows that people ask me it's to do with Gezel Goy, and today we're not dealing with Gezel Goy, so I'm not going to go in there. But where is the distinction? Of course, alvaosoi. That of course, alvaosoi, that if the Goy owes you money, you're allowed to not pay him back. And the Alter Rebbe explains it in the Shulchan Aruch very well. Alter Rebbe writes like this: also a lashik as chaveda, you're not allowed to do the aveda of oishik. I feel the kolshu, even a nickel, even a penny. Shenemar, loy sashrik es reyach. You're not allowed to do oishik. Be'ezu oishik. What does it mean oishik? Oishik means to rob. It's what's the difference? Gezel oishik, you're robbing someone. No, it's a different thing. Oishik is also robbing, but a different type of robbing.
But goy is not your.
Let's read it. Be'ezu oishik. What is oishik? Ze abba mamen chaveda leyodoy. That his friend's money came to his hand. The owner gave it to me willingly. Could go on, for example. Someone gave me a loan. I didn't steal the money. He gave me a loan. He lets me live in his house, in an apartment, in his building, and I have to pay him. I'm not a squatter. I didn't come into the house. But But now, ein roitz l'shalom. The Alter Rebbe says furthermore, I owe him the money, and instead of paying it back immediately, I say tomorrow, I push it off. So that's called oishik. This love is only by a Jew. You're not allowed to do oishik to reyacha. Reyacha is another Jew. However, there's a condition. Like we saw in the beginning of the Bakiba said that that there is an issue of chilul Hashem either way. To go and shalavim, how could there not be a chilul Hashem? To go and shalavim in ochri umeis anochi. If I take a loan from a goy and the guy dies, I'm allowed to lie to his son. Again, I'm allowed to lie to his son. Alter Rebbe brings rise from the Shas that you're allowed to lie. That and don't tell me that it's also to lie. I'm allowed to lie about this. The son doesn't know that if you're lying or not lying. It could say to the guy, I paid back your father the loan. What do you want from me? But if the guy knows that I am lying, also and again, says the Alter Rebbe, I want to emphasize that even if the guy knows nothing, the only thing that we're saying it's mutter is of course if I have an object, it's in my hand, it belongs to the guy. Also, boy, I'm not allowed to say, the delivery never came, I'm sorry. I'm not allowed to lie, but if this object belongs to the guy, that's gzela. When it's money is milveloitzon. Money is not. It's not here. The money is not here. It's a conceptual thing. I owe him, even though I have that dollar the guy gave me. The dollar means nothing. That dollar it's a conceptual. Money is loitzon. It's an obligation of a payment. So because it's an obligation of a payment, so it's not a din of gzela. It's called oishik. That's the difference of gzela. Gzela means it's yours and it's sitting in my house. So if I'm holding on to it, it's gzela. You're not allowed to do gzela for a Jew or goy alike, and it's both a iser deraisa. But oishik means that there's a conceptual obligation. I have a money obligation. So over there it's a reyacha, but there's not allowed to be a chilul Hashem.
So a bank is paying a mortgage, and the government has a program that those that can't pay, they're going to give them help or something like that. You're allowed to duck and not to pay because it's not kia.
Yeah, someone asked me this week a funny shaila. He said that a lot of people got COVID, they got a lot of free money, and now the government is sending out this thing that you have to prove
that you were unemployed.
That you have to prove you're unemployed. You have to prove ahin. You have to prove aher. So are you allowed to be creative in the stories? So I said if the person lachatchila took the money al daz is a shaila. But if the government was like, yeah, they were giving, now they want to make money, but the coffers are empty. So why not? The government has the right. They have lawyers and they could shoot darts. They could do whatever they want. So they say, oh, prove it. So now it's a question of oishik. The money came berotz nabaylam. Because I'm not saying every program. I don't know what kind of programs out there, which program, but if this was a program, the person says that the government was throwing money. They were saying, come take the money. Now they decided that there's a new thing that you have to prove kocha v'kocha v'kocha. But now the money is already in the people's pocket. Some of them spent it already. It's not the shot. They spent it already. Now the government macht sich narish. That they wanted. So that's taka. It's mutar lakachish. It's mutar lakachish. You're allowed to be mekachish. Huh? So it's taka big pella. It's taka big pella. No. It's because one of the rayas he says you're allowed to lie. The Alter brings a raya, but that the Mishnah says noidrim lamoichse. That you're allowed to falsify to the tax collector who is collecting tax unfairly. So it's over there. It's befedish. He's lying. He's lying. So the fact we see from this Mishnah,
We hear the guy's fear.
no. So we see, but what the Alter Rebbe's raya is, but what's the difference? He's on fear, not fear. But the
guy's lying to you, so you want to lie back to him.
and so the Alter Rebbe doesn't see it that way. I hear your question. You're asking a question. The Alter Rebbe is saying lekachish means to lie. And kachish means to lie. It's not leich v'shul. Kachish is a lie. In Lashon Kodesh. So I think it's a big pelataka, but the lapel, that's the way the Alter Rebbe holds. The Alter Rebbe is very machmer, like a big gezelakum. But here, when it's oishik, the Alter Rebbe befedish holds you're allowed to tell a story.
It has to be dafka that they can't tell for sure that you're doing something wrong.
Right. There has to be that they can't tell for sure that this guy is being mekachish. If they know for sure, bevadai gomer, that the guy is being mekachish, that's a chilul Hashem.
But with the Germans, they really owe us more than what they decided to give us.
So here's the shaila with the Germans. So first in this shaila, so based on this, the halacha would be like this: if the Germans, for example, sent a check, and the check wasn't cashed yet, so it would, the question could be asked if that's the din of gzela or that's the din of oishek. But since it's direct deposit in this case, so the money came, berotz nabayla. No one asked them; they put it in. It was berotz nabayla. What's the difference if it's chirus alvot? No one asked them to put it in. They made it direct deposit. So now it's a shaila of oishek. The only shaila is if there'll be a chilul Hashem. Now the one that asked pointed out that it's not like someone sitting there and write letters. The computer spits out letters. They don't know if the family is where the family is, what the family is. Maybe the state of New York took over the person's estate. So the state of New York is not answering letters because they're not interested. But so there's no they don't know b'birur gomer that the family got the letter. So there's no chilul Hashem because they don't know bevadai. So l'chayda there should be 100% of course salvasa. But there's another point that comes into the story. There's another point that comes into this story. I want to read in Sifyu Tes in the same simon in the Alter Rebbe. By the Choshen Mishpat is all in different simon. And the Alter Rebbe made like a kitzur shulchan aruch of Choshen Mishpat. One day we should really learn it. It's a very, very gishmak. The Alter Rebbe took maybe 150 simonim and combined them into like 12 simonim. Like what a yid needs to know, not a dayan. What a yid needs to know in Hilchas Choshen Mishpat. It's very gishmak to see the way the Alter Rebbe learns the sugis and become mitzvah. But Babasar, anyway, like Kuntas Achlands, he's like a little bit of lumdus. Okay. In Sifyu Tes, the Alter Rebbe writes, "V'chein melech shekos al achat me'avodav v'shamoshem ibnei Medina." If the melech gets angry at them, and the lokach beis, he takes away the house of one of the people in the country. If the government takes away the house from this person and then sells it to someone else, the person is allowed to buy it. If it's discrimination, if there's a law, if you mow your lawn before 7 o'clock in the morning, you lose your house. It's crazy, draconian law. But it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if you're 16, if 17, doesn't matter the color of your skin, doesn't matter who you are, what you are. If there's a little sound before 7, you lose your house. Crazy. A law is a law. There's no discrimination, is a law. But if they discriminate against people, they say that black people, if they're going to mow the lawn before 7 in the morning, they lose their house. The white people could do whatever they want. Now, so then that's gezel. That's gezel gomer. You're not allowed to buy that house from the government. Then it's unless it's like any gezel that was already used shishina reshus. Well, let's finish the lines. Because there's discrimination, that's not called a law. That's called gezela. What happened if there's a gzeira in the Jews? They should give extra tax. If there's a Jew tax, that's legit. That's not called discrimination.
Everybody else.
That's not called discrimination, yeah?
I mean, a lot of times the laws are not overt like that. Like, let's say there's a law that using your example, that you must mow your lawn on Shabbos morning. You must. That doesn't mean about color. But, it's affecting a certain segment that is not able to.
Shabbos is a bad example. Can't make it.
Whatever. I'm saying, I'm saying, but if it's
Or you only have
something that's it's written in such a way that it singles out a segment.
Anything that's a discrimination. But you see over here that you're allowed to discriminate against the Jews. The shaila is why you're allowed to discriminate against the Jews. Furthermore, the Alter Rebbe later brings, which is a shaila the Gemara has in Shulchan Aruch, that if the king discriminates against the butchers, everyone pays a certain tax, the butchers pay double. And that's also gzela. He can't discriminate against one of the Bali Umniyos. And they all pay 10%, they all pay 10%. Okay.
Special reason for it.
Oh, versteht sich, the special.
The Jews. So there has the Jew tax is because very often in the Galut, the king was protecting the Jews from the other people.
Right. Good svara. I was thinking about this. I was looking, the Shoydish of this din is in the Marik. This is a very good teretz. Exactly, I was thinking of this.
And
That
with the invitation that they make something different to us has nothing to do with that because we don't need to especially protect us.
right. Well, that's the pshat. So that's one pshat. You could say that the Melech was paying special shamoshim to protect the Jews. If you look in the market of this, is the Marik. The Marik has a long tshuva. It's the last tshuva in the Shal Shuvas Marik. Marik Kulon, who's sort of on the border between the Rishonim and the Acharonim, lived in Italy, and he writes tshuva about taxes and a story with the Jew that the king sold him the rights of taxes, and that there was another Yid. They had a sichsuch with him, where he says that that they could give a Jew tax. There could be a Jew tax, but he brings several reasons for it. And one of the things is that the king has the right to say that I don't want the Jews to live in my land. And the actual Chochem Shloimeh in the Shulchan Aruch says that's why a government they're not allowed to discriminate unless it's against foreigners. They can't discriminate against citizens. We're Trump supporters here. They can't discriminate against citizens. So if they will discriminate against, color, because they have the color, their skin is different. So then, whatever all those dinim are called gazel gum. But if they say all immigrants, we're gonna deport them and gonna take away all their nechosim. No problem.
Yeah, the Jews have traditionally been considered hair ring.
Oh, so because the Jews are foreigners, that's the way it seems the Chachma Shloimeh learns it.
He said no problem. I'll be a local. No problem.
I think that was before Jews were emancipated in countries. They were talking not citizens. And not being citizens also had certain privileges. They didn't have to serve in the army. They didn't, whatever. There were certain privileges of not being citizens too. So they didn't participate in civil society too, for the good and for the worse. Okay, so, but they were treated like foreigners. So you could say why would a Jew tax be legit? So number one, the Jew tax would be legit because we need to pay extra guards to protect the Jew. Number two, because the Jews are not really citizens. And number three, there's another thing that the Marik mentions over there, is that the koyach of taxes, which is shit in my hand. There's a Rosh Yeshiva in Bnei Akiva Yeshiva, Rabbi Yosef Bogod. You know Rabbi Yosef Bogod?
There's a lot of
So he has. I brought him once as Sfarim. A very interesting guy. Remember once there was Punkt in Israel. They had in the papers. He got up in the Knesset as a member of the Knesset. He had the right. He has his 10 minutes, and he brought a talus. He said, "There's too much tumah in this room." And he made a broch on the talus. It was masatif, and he said he has
They have a video of that.
Yeah, he's busy dispelling the tumah over there. He is interesting, very colorful. So my brother tells me he came once. It was in France. He came to Lubavitch Yeshiva in Brunois. So they gave him to give a shir. So he has this whole idea of how to remember Kol HaTorah Kula. Ein HaTorah Niknas Ala B'Simonim. So I want to hear such a shir. So he says everything you have to make a sim. He says, how do you know that the Israeli government doesn't have the right to collect taxes? He says, I'll tell you how. Because it's the koyach of Nedorim. Because the Ran in Nedorim, Avchov Ches says that the koyach to collect taxes because the government owns the land, but Eretz Yisrael belongs to the Eibishter. So this guy's a Knesset member.
How did the kings get money? How did the milk get money?
That was different. Oh, that was Kol Omer b'Pashas Melech Zoichaboy, because he has a din of a Melech, and he was Mashuach through Shmuel Hanavi and through his base dinoi. So he has this different. A Melech has rights. There's a different thing. So the Melech he is a Melech, but Naftali Bennett is not a Melech.
Especially
Okay.
Right now he's nothing.
especially a lot of Makia from the Arabs are part of the government.
For
By the
sure.
way, there's a podcast, Living L'Chaim. They interviewed Jacobson, Rabbi Jacobson. They asked him about making a bracha for Trump. He said, yes, placed him. And he said that there's a difference between Memshala and Malchus. One is, with force, one, if you have a king, absolute monarch, he's there by force. And of course, you make a bracha, but this is a president, people actually want him, and all the more so you should make the bracha.
Okay, we spoke about it at the time. We spoke about it at the time. Okay, so anyway, there's three things that we mentioned here, three svaras that you could say that were not applied, did not apply in Germany in Austria in 1939. All three of these reasons don't apply. Now, Oila al-Kulona is that you could say that the government has the right to give a Jew tax and to charge them crazy amount of money, but they don't have the right to slaughter them and therefore take away their houses and businesses. That's obviously, that you don't need any pilpul. You don't need to have this way or that way. It's quite obvious that they don't have the right to do that, to kill them and to take away their property. Because they killed them, now they can take a ratzachta. Literally, that the pasuk says that's a joke. In other words, when the pasuk wants to say something which is ridiculous, the pasuk uses the expression ratzachta v'gam yorashta. You're going to kill someone and then you're also going to take his property. So obviously, that they didn't have the right to do that. So they're mechuyev al pi din Torah to pay back every Jew for his property. Now, many of us have mishpachas that they still know the addresses to their houses and the businesses. We go to Europe. My wife's family, they were rich people. Here. These are the buildings that belong to them. Moshe Zuchmach, you can't do anything about it. They're not. The Europeans are very happy. We're very happy to see the Jews off to the gas chambers. And now the etzem hayoim hazeh, doesn't matter how much proof you bring that you own these properties, they don't want to pay for it. But al pi din, they're mechuyev to pay. So if they're mechuyev to pay al pi din, so then the family could keep that in mind, that this 1,000 is the first 1,000 deducted on the whatever $4 or $5 million when the German government wants to pay back for what they stole.
If somebody could go to the German government and give proof that it was their family's property, they wouldn't give it back.
No.
Why?
My own family in Poland was killed. Yeah? And one of the three richest families in Poland, not my Zayd or Amish, but they took so much. There is, in 1939, there is a telephone directory of all the Kirchenbergs. The only one that got saved was my grandfather and two more that were in France. That all of that belongs to us. They did not give a penny. And it's in the telephone directory where they lived exactly. Because in 1939, there was a telephone directory.
Someone asked me a shaila this week. He works for Google. So the thing is, at a lot of days, it's at 2:00. There's nothing to do. He's a yidala. He finishes his work, supervisor. So he goes on dance deals, finds cheap pampers for his wife, tissue papers, in and By Iyar recently, he thought of a business. So comes home at night and he's working on his business. His wife says, why are you such a yod? Why are you coming home and working in your business? I don't need your deals from dance deals. never mind. We'll buy tissues regular. We'll buy Pampers regular. When you instead of going on dance deals, work on your projects when you're at work. So you ask the Shaila, is that considered Gzela or is not considered Gzela? Let's read now to the B'Shulchan Aruch Hilchos She'elu Schidus. K'derech shel ba'al habayis muza shelo ligzel schar ha'oni, v'lo la'achrei, kach ha'oni muza shelo yevatel malachas ba'al habayis. Just like the balabas is to be very careful, not that the Torah is very strict about paying the worker, paying him on time, and not cheating him for his money. Also, the worker has to be very careful not to waste his time with the balachas balabais. Be'avatel ma'atkan, that he'll waste a few minutes here, a few minutes there. And over time, the whole day is wasted. He has to be very medactic in the zman that he gives, that he hired himself to the balabais. And we see that the din is that when a poil works, when he does Birchas Hamazon after eating his meal, he doesn't make the fourth bracha. Why? Because he's wasting time from the work of the balabais. Even though Shulchan Aruch says we're not makbid as employers, no problem. You can do the whole benching, okay, but not that you should. Not like there's someone that's in Beis Menachem. He tells me he can't get workers. He says the whole day they're sitting on the phone like this. He says they're not working. They're not working. I'm paying them per day, paying them per hour, but they're doing half the amount of malacha or less. So that's also the Alter Rebbe continues that not only that, his whole koyach has to go into the work that he's doing. Yaakov Atzadik, Omar, Kebekol Koichi Avadti Savicha. Levigach not Schore Ava and Lamazah, Shenam Aviv Retzish Moed. Yaakov said that he worked with Kol Koichi, and therefore Taka he had Schar Bar Lamazah that Abish made Aviv Retzish Moed. So, Lamaisa in our Shaila, the Alter Rebbe goes on to say very interesting, very important halachas, which are that if you're a worker, not allowed to go to sleep super duper late. The next day your head is foggy and you can't function. And same thing if a person hires out, he has a behemoth. He hires out. He's not allowed to all night do malacha with the behemoth. In the morning, okay, here's the behemoth, because the behemoth is now shvach.
Not functioning.
It's not.
Rabbi, in the same line of reasoning, since we are workers for Hashem, shouldn't we have that same mindset?
No, very good.
For the following day, to wake up.
Ari's already thinking like the Lubavitcher Rebbe.
No, but I think that you're not supposed to work for your balabos because your real work is Hashem. Be careful how much you give him.
Ari's already thinking like the Lubavitcher Rebbe. The Rebbe says, first of all, interesting things to do with the Rambam. Those are learning through Prakim Rambam today. That what's the expression Yaakov HaTzadik? I never heard this. Like the Rambam cooked up some new losh. Yaakov HaTzadik, Yaakov Avinu, Avram Avinu, Yitzchak Avinu, Yaakov. We never saw Yaakov HaTzadik. Like what's this funny thing HaTzadik? And Adarab, it sounds like it's a din and tzidkis. So if it's a din and tzidkis, so what's that I have to do it? Okay, he's a tzaddik. He wants to be a tzaddik. Let him be a tzaddik.
Not only Yosef Tzaddik was Yosef Tzaddik, all the rest.
Probably there were tzaddikim, but we don't find that expression right. But so why by Yosef we say tzaddik, but we never find Yaakov tzaddik. Only Yaakov tzaddik. So the Rebbe says that if you learn Hilchos Deis, the Rambam says that a person is mechuyev to go with with his outlook in life, b'derech hamitzua, in the middle. Not to be too crazy on the right, not to be too crazy on the left. All the days should be in the middle, and that's called derech hamitzua. A person that goes with derech hamitzua is called a tzaddik. A person that does extra, is called a chosed. Tzaddik means that's the right thing to do. Tzaddik, it's the right thing to do. Sometimes tzaddik is a borrowed term. Sometimes we say tzaddik as I was saying, as a yid that's piety is tzaddik. But sometimes tzaddik, the word tzaddik is, as you see in the first Perek in Tanya, that sometimes the real tzaddik, and then there's a Shem HaMushal about tzaddik, and that he's really a big balaveda. He did a couple of things. He's tzaddik bediner, anoich ish tzaddik. So you have here The pshat is that he's saying that Yaakov Avinu, you're going to tell me that he was a chassid, he did lifnim mishur sadin, he's before man Torah, you can't learn. So that's not true. We see the Gemara does learn from Yaakov certain things like Abi Shmida, how the Gemara learns from there the chiyuv of Shmida. So we see that we do learn from there. So the Rambam says that this that Yaakov Avinu did b'kol koichi was not as a chassid, which is lifnim mishur sadin. You'd say you can't learn from it. He did it as a tzaddik. That was tzaddik v'yosher. That's the way it has to be. So the lesson that Rebbe says is,
how does he know that? Because it doesn't sound right.
how does the Rambam know that he did it as
Yeah,
tzaddik?
he was taking
Because we
advantage
see
of
that the Gemara learns a lot of halachas, like Abi Shmida, that from when he said that Yisib Hayom V'chlani Chodev V'kerech Balayla, the chiyuv Shmida that Shomer has. How could you learn the Chodev before Man Torah and not Chodev? Maybe he did it with Nimeshur Sadin Zaraya. That the Gemara thinks that what Yaakov did was certain things you could learn from before Man Torah, like that. What's the way of justice? That if someone hired you before Man Torah, what would be just? What's the relationship of a worker? The Gemara holds that you could learn from this, and that's what the emphasis of the Rambam is. That this wasn't as Yaakov didn't do it as a midas chasidus, but he did it as a tzaddik. Tzaddik, as the way Rambam calls it, v'derech hamitzvah. That's the real way. So I would say like this: it's hard to say really, because today a lot of employers. So this is my question. So I asked the person, "Could your employer look what you're doing?" He says, "Yes." And there are workers that do inappropriate things on the internet, and the company makes it clear that their displeasure when people do that. If you go a little bit sharp.
The thing with Google is that you can film with them, then they say everything you're doing.
So if it's this industry standard that they let people, because they can't work for 8 hours a day and they need to a little bit, litten, whatever. Huh?
You're not going to find workers.
You're not going to find workers,
So
exactly.
Let everybody go there. And have it.
Right. So if it's the industry, and they have control, they see what you're doing in the computer, and they'll flag you if they think that you're doing wrong. So if that's the standard of what everyone does, and then you're doing your job, you're finishing your job. LMI, there's extra time. Obviously, if you beg for more work, they'll give you more work. But not necessarily. Yeah, whatever.
But Rabbi, there's a difference.
Corporate companies will find out.
They're right. So not necessarily. So therefore, if that's industry standard, they have control. They have control. But and 1 second, they said that the Rebbe is less. Navodas Hashem Ari is on it. The Rebbe says that we learn from here less that Ayid is that the Poilam Atzelim Balabai is Doichik. It says the day is very short, and the workers are lazy, and the balabas is pushing. Come on, get to the finish line. The balabais is the Eibishter, and we are the workers, and we're in this world to do a job. Every yid has an accomplishment that we have to do in the learning Torah and the doing mitzvahs and the influence that we have on the world. So a person's going to say, when I'm learning Torah, I have to learn Torah, Fashteitzach, Kol Koichi, davening. But everything we do, we have to put our whole neshama into it. We don't do, the way Goyim live. They live in La La Land. The Pasha live in La La Land. They're playing games all day. Life is not serious. They're playing games. The Pasha, the whole life goes away from when they're born until they die. Kipshute. They don't know they're alive. They're playing games. They're wherever they are, they're playing games. They come home. They're watching TV. They're living in They're not living. The Ayid has to be the opposite. But Kol Koichi, you're taking your son out. You're playing sports with your son. You're playing sports with your son right now. You're with your wife. You're right now. You're not here, there, everywhere. My mind is wandering there. I'm with my wife right now. But Kol Koichi, whatever the Eibishter requires from me right now. I should be with my children. I should be with my Enikel. I should be with my wife. I'm working for my Balabais. Whatever I do, my avodas Hashem has to be b'kol koich. I put myself into it, and the schar for this is vayisfritz ish ma'od ma'od. Yeah, you wanted to say.
No, I was going to ask if this person, if he gets paid by the task as opposed to the hour, then he'd be allowed to.
But the task would be different. Yeah, the shaila that the person has to, he's getting paid. He's a 9 to 5 worker.
But it's still 9 to 5. But he has got to do a certain amount of tasks every day. Whatever.
Yeah. They give him.
So if he's done with it, then he can.
Right.
At the end of the day, Yehuda Chumash, right, says that the concept of Leichu means that if your life you do, okay, so I'm going to do this work, yeah, but I'm going to see what mitzvahs of Hashem and how I could connect with this thing. Then I go to wash the dishes, the same thing. When I go to sleep, the same thing. When I go to learn, the same thing. Everything that I go do in my life, I go to do it in order to see how I could apply the mitzvahs of Hashem into whatever I'm doing. In the Chukot Saitayleichu, that's what it says that it means.
The base Yehuda.
So everything in life is okay. So this situation, what should I do for Hashem? How do I do it? But you're doing the same thing at the goy or the the Shem Shemayim.
Very nice. Okay, so someone asked me this year, Shvu Erev Shvu, the Chabad minhag is not take a haircut besides Erev Shavuos. This year Erev Shavuos is Shabbos. So no Erev Shavuos, just Erev Shavuos. I don't think there's a difference before or after Chatzos. So I want to look into this the Shaila. The Alter B'Shulchan brings Tav Tzad Gimel. There's neigam l'staper b'lisa b'chol shlosh tzmei agbala. There is a minhag to do haircut, married, whatever, in all shlosh tzmei agbala. Elo shehem ein mistaper v'noisem b'resh chodesh Iyar ad resh chodesh belvad. B'lo ad b'chlal. כדי שינויגם אבל Islamic gimgim shemasach b'resh chodesh Iyar masam b'yom rishon shel agbala. Miktzis hayoyis hayom. Right. Some people do this with they do 33 days. The question is which 33 days. They don't want to be stuck with doing 33 days of Avelis in the Shlosh Magbalas. They start from the beginning of the year and they finish the first day of the Magbalas. A mixes oisa yom ha'achron kekul. V'lchem estaprim v'noisim sheheya yom rishon shel agbala from the Shlosh Magbala, which is this year would be Thursday morning. From Thursday morning, once it's day, not the night before. Okay. But when Yom in Gimel 7 it says, "Shistapru b'me'agbala koydem erev Shavuos, loy hoya ruach adoni ovi moidi noichem izeh." The Rebbe Rashab didn't like it. The Pashtus why? It's if you look in the Kaf HaChaim in Tzimah Tav Tzad Gimel, he brings from the Rashash that it seems like there's an inyan api Kabbalah. The whole thing, the thing is that there is a thing api Kabbalah. Besides api Nigla, which is Talmidei Rebbe Akiva passing away, which then the question is 33 days, the first 30, next 30, when it starts, when it ends. But there seems to be api Kabbalah something with the. So
you can't even touch one hair.
I don't know if that's a lotion. But Erev, the he brings it that even the Rashash was Mekel Erev Chag HaShavuos. So then Hogev, the Rebbe Rashab is not because of Api Nigla, it's a Kabbalah, Api Nister, that there is something about it. So he was Mekel on Erev Lepoil. What do you do in a year like this? So the Kaf HaChaim says that those that are Noik only do Erev Yom Tov will do it a day earlier. But Lepoil, some of the person that asked said that it's very hard Friday. He's not going to get a chance to do it on Friday, so it'd be impossible. So I said, so anyway, this year, huh? Yeah. So, but Bemis Apidin, you could do Shloisha Simei Agbala. So this year anyway, you can't do it Erev Yom Tov. And even those that are makbet only do it Erev Shavuos are Mekel this year. They do it Erev Shavuos. So, but anyway, the din is you could do it. Even those that keep all 49 days of Sfira could do it from Thursday morning.
And Thursday was a good day for the world. It's my birthday.
This Thursday? Okay, so Mitzvah Shem, Shehav Shnaz Hatzlacha, Bracha, and all of Klal Yisrael, Shehav Shnaz Hatzlacha, Bracha. That we should go in the Mitzvah Shem to Kabbalah Torah, like the Friedrich Rebbe said, we should makabel the Torah, the Simcha b'Pnimius.
How many was?
And he stayed. So he spoke. Family. And one thing is, I like Sameach.
Right.
All the time, so the wine, the festival, Kollel Yom RIshon. That's how I get elected. Because Kollel means boats.
The guy's a cute guy, very cute.
Thursday morning.
Yeah, Thursday morning.
We were watched. We were watched.
Oh, just empty papers. Let me use. Why not? 1 second. Okay.
Well, what?
Why not?
What happened?
Maybe what?
I went to.
Anybody?
You know why
What would you? What you think you would? Kind. Huh? It's called it's brought in Sforim that naming a baby is an abur ktan. So even if they didn't know, Malamayla they knew. Malamayla they knew.
You're a good husband.
Malamayla they
No
knew.
matter what.
I never know. I had the same thing. My wife liked some of the kids we named was not because this. My wife liked the name.
Yeah.
After we named the baby, my father told me, you know, that this name is we come from this this yichus, and that name that's the family name.
Yeah.
So I didn't know. He said, "Oh, very good. It's from heaven."
You know, you ask the Shaila that if you have a shiur, to wash yourself, not 10.
Sign the bullet.